Pardon my tardiness. I went to the hotel to change. I don't really like wearing suits. If I had my way, I'd wear a loincloth, a spear with a bone in my nose. But I'd get fired if I did that. Building healthy relationships with kids. I am hoping you're building healthy relationships with your kids. Yeah, you can take notes, take pictures of the slides, things like that. Okay, I want to begin with a definition of child self-worth. How a child truly thinks, believes, and feels about themselves along a positive to negative continuum. A child can either have a more low, negative, or unhealthy self-esteem, or a more positive, high, or healthy self-worth. Whatever their degree of self-worth, whether it be negative or positive, it influences everything in their life. The way they behave around parents, siblings, friends, and teachers, how they perform academically, how they spend their time, how they play, how they handle chores, how they deal with stress, pressure, everything. You want to keep in mind, I think I put this over here, I don't know if I did. No, yeah. A child's core sense of self-worth has crystallized 85 to 90% by age 6. Get this thing open and drink some. Hands are kind of slippery. Vaseline. Put it on my lips.
By the way, you have to end at about 2:45.
2:45. Okay. All right. I think I mentioned during the preaching service that I was getting my throat checked out on Wednesday. I don't know what's up with it. Because a child's core sense of self-worth has crystallized by 85 or 90% by age 6, this means that before a child even starts the first grade, she or he is walking out with more of a positive or negative self-worth, which says that the home environment plays the most significant role in shaping a child's self-worth. The Lord built into all of us the need to be accepted, loved, and to believe and feel like we're worth something. God built that in all of us. God built into us to belong to a group. Children especially need this acceptance because they're dependent on others for self-care and should not be made to feel like they're a problem, a burden, or unwanted, or they can become angry and act out disrespectfully and aggressive, and they can become depressed and in some cases actually suicidal. Yes, there are children who get so depressed that they can become suicidal. Jean, the mother of my children, she worked at, she did her internship at Austin State Hospital, and she worked in child psychiatric unit, and she saw 6 to 10-year-olds who were thinking of killing themselves. And I'd done my internship several years earlier. And she'd come home and say, how can a 6 to 10-year-old want to? Well, that's because of the parents. The parents. So many parents are so busy making money. They're too busy. They're not giving the time children need to be connected. Now, I've mentioned this morning that my daughters were homeschooled till about 10, 12, 13, because as a psychologist, we know that some children aren't ready to go to school. You can't just say every child should go to kindergarten at 6. Some children aren't ready. Have you heard of separation anxiety disorder? These are children. I've seen parents where I don't understand why my child doesn't want to go to kindergarten. Well, what is she like when she's grabbing onto me? The teacher has to, that's traumatic. You can't do that. You can't pull the kid's not ready. They need to fill up on parental connection first. Okay, children especially need this. Okay. I want to begin with the 5 issues related to child self-esteem. Why do you love your children? You want to answer this. Why do you love your children? If you're a parent or parent-to-be, listen closely to these questions and answer them honestly. Do you love your children because they say or do the right things, or do you love them because you're literally looking at a combination of you and your spouse? That's why separation and divorce is painful to kids. We don't understand it, but think about it. Your child, your son, your daughter is a combination of 2 genes, male and female. When you separate, it does something you don't understand, but they're torn apart. Level of parent self-worth. Getting a little bit ahead of myself here. I want to stick with, let me go back to this other one here. Okay. Do you love your children because they look cute to others, stay out of your way, and do exactly what you tell them without a fuss? Or do you love them because they're your own flesh and blood? Do you love your children because they're smarter, they're more mature or talented than other kids, or they're their teacher's pet? Or do you simply love your children because they're gifts from God? If your feelings for your children are primarily based on how they measure up to what you want them to be or how they compare to other kids, you're setting them up for self-worth problems. How? Because you're teaching your children only when they perform the way you want or are better than others, they're acceptable, approvable, likable, and appreciated. In other words, you're teaching your children to believe that imperfections will not be tolerated. What we have to do instead as parents or anyone who takes care of kids is love them unconditionally. 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 If my girls were here now, they'd say, I'd ask them, how does Daddy love you? Is it because you're good Christian girls, because you get good? It's not, no, you love us just because you're your daughter. They'll say that to you just because we're your daughter. It's not because of what they're doing or haven't done. It's because I'm their daughter. I will say to them, Daddy loves you and will always love you. Nothing will ever take that out of my heart for you. And I don't know how you were raised. My parents, they were old school. You know, she didn't speak unless you were spoken to. That damages your self-worth. I only got be done by 2 o'clock, so I'm gonna skip some of this. You don't want to let your impatience or frustration with them take such a foothold that it taints your feeling towards them and causes you to reject them. We've all been rejected by someone, and it really hurts. Kids are really hurt by this. Do you know when you discipline children why they cry? It isn't because of the punishment. This is why. This is psychologically, psychosocially why. They think you don't want them anymore. Because too many parents discipline out of anger and rage and frustration. You're supposed to discipline the behavior, not punish the child. So next time your child acts up, if this is an issue for you, just wait a while until you calm down. Then say what you need to say. I've counseled kids. I'm not a child therapist, but I had to do some of that early in my career. And I remember, you want to get down to a child's eye level when you talk to a kid. You want to always squat down. So I'll say to this kid who's 6 years old, 7 years old in the psychiatric, how come you're here? My daddy and mommy don't love you. Well, you have a nice roof over here. Well, they don't give me any time. What do you mean? Well, they just they choose everything over me. What do you mean? Well, they don't come to this. They don't do. Children need you. They may want things, but they need you. They need you. I think that's why our children are so well adjusted, because I remember when I was pastoring at that church in '93, the head elder, the kids were just perfect to me. I said, what do you do to make them? We just pray. So that's what we do. We pray. We pray. We pray. Even when they come home from school, we'll pick up the new user. We'll pray around the family. We'll do the routines they grew up with. Okay. Level of parent self-worth. If a parent has negative, unhealthy, or low self-worth, His or her children at risk of developing the same thing. You've heard that saying, like father, like son, like mother, like daughter. If a parent has low self-worth, she or he is more likely to try and feel good about themselves through their children's successes. So parents with low self-worth may push high expectations on their children to achieve it. And if they don't measure up, they become critical, judgmental, and plain old mean. Now, I'm not being prejudiced or racist or anything like that, but at the University of Pacific, we have a lot of Asian students, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, and some from Taiwan. And I'm counseling several students now from those countries who are seeking majors, not because they chose them, they're Indian students as well, not Native American, but from India, Bombay, places like their parents are immigrants, and they struggle to get here, and they just want to make sure that their parents can. I understand. This is what I'll say to the kid: your parents meant well. They don't want you to struggle like they do, but they should mean well by encourage you to do what you want to do. I have a student now. She's a 19-year-old from some province in China. She's in dental school because her parents want her to be a dentist. Have another student, she's from Korea. This can happen in any culture, but I notice it happens a lot in the Asian culture. She is a Korean student, and her dad's an engineer and wants her to be an engineer. She's an engineer. She hates science. She's not, it's like you cannot have expectations for your children based on what you didn't do or what you want for them. All we're supposed to want for them is to have a good relationship with Jesus Christ. Everything else up to them. I already shared that my oldest daughter's going into social work. I didn't tell her to go in psychology, but she said, I want to do this. She said, that's in my blood. And my other daughter, she wants to be a nurse. We never told them what to do. We said, just pray to the Lord so to use your knowledge, skills, abilities, and gifts to his praise, honor, and glory. Okay. The demands placed on him or her are unreasonable, so they end up failing. I've seen students, because of parents' low self-worth, they want to live their dreams out in their children, so they push them. They push them. If the kid gets an A or an F, they feel like they got an A or an F. You can't do that. You cannot do that. Too much emphasis is placed on what she or he does as opposed to who or she is, which is your flesh and blood and gifts from God. We aren't supposed to force our kids to do anything. All we're supposed to do is encourage their growth in Christ. Like Miles at Oakwood, who was the president at that time? What's Reed? I guess the president's name is important. But he said, Dr. Oler, you're a researcher. What is it we need to do? What does the students need to do to develop a close relationship with Jesus Christ? Well, I already knew that, but I did the research anyway. The number one thing that will foster your kids is devotion, their personal devotion. Where they get up in the morning and they read. Well, our devotion was we'd sing a few songs from the hymnal. We'd read a passage in history in the Bible or Spirit of Prophecy, and we'd say, what did you get out? What do you think of? What does it say to you? Now, if they do that, my girls still do that too. In fact, when they come home, sometimes, my wife and I will forget and they say, Dad, Mom, I'm supposed to do something. You got to train them in the way they should go, and they'll do it. Okay. Parents with high self-worth can sometimes also negatively affect their child's self-worth because they say to themselves, I've achieved, I'm a success, I feel good about myself, my son or daughter should be the same. Now there's some sons or daughters who have real deficits. They may have ADHD, ADD, they may be on the high end of the autism spectrum. There's some issues that could keep them from doing well academically, and the parents still push them. How many parents have I sat down with and said, look, your expectations for your son or daughter is unreasonable. They have BID, borderline intellectual function. They have issues, they have real issues. Not saying they can't be a success, but they can't be what you want them to be. Parents do not want to see their kids be defective because they think it's a reflection on them. You know how you get when your kids act up in public. You want to incinerate them, but you can't. But I have seen parents have their kid in a stroller not in a stroller, but in the basket. What's that part of the basket where they put the kids in? The little thing there. And the kids saying, I want my french fries, I want my french, no later, no later. The louder they get, they give into it. They give them the french fries. And I'm the type of person who I'll say, Mom, that was a mistake. Who are you? I'm just a man. That was a mistake. He knows in public when he's loud, when he yells loud enough, you don't give in to anyone. Even when a little, you don't give in to their tantrum. Tantrum's not going to, you can't worry about your image. You have to worry about their development. That's what I tell them. Don't worry about your image. Worry about their development. If he wants to yell and scream in the store, let him stay there. I'll be back later. You don't give in. You give the kid power. He learns early on when I yell loud enough, she'll do what I want, he'll do what I don't. Some parents are so perfectionistic that they can't and won't tolerate anything but absolute perfection, rightness, or I want you-ness from their children. And so they'll push their kids to excel, blind or insensitive to the effects of the pressure they're putting on them. Parents can get so angry, frustrated, and impatient with their child, and they don't understand that they're causing psychological, emotional, or even learning problems for him or her. We need to let our children be children. Now, my girls, we didn't have a TV. We got rid of our TVs before we even had children, but because we were in graduate school. But they didn't grow up with TV. When we go to see our parents or relatives for Thanksgiving, and everyone's looking at TV, they say, Dad, can we do something? Yeah, we can do something. You don't need a TV. You don't need it. You want to damage your kid? Give them a TV, give them a computer, and give them a cell phone. Our girls and I get cell phones, so they were like 17. A lot of folks for college said, you abuse. No, I didn't abuse them. You abused them. Weren't you the one, I said this to one person, weren't you the one that came to me and said that your daughter, she doesn't even eat with you anymore, want to go on with you? And I said, anything different happened? She said, well, I gave her a phone, that was it. Some people can't be responsible with stuff. You don't talk to me about me abusing my kids. This is something down on the script here. You do not take your kid to Disneyland. It's fantasy, fiction. Our prophetess counsels against that. Plus, I want to when someone, some parents will get their kids Superman and Superwoman and Princess someone outfits and say, you're so gorgeous. Why can't you say that when you're already teaching that only when they're somewhere else are they valuable? You don't do that. Spider-Man, Superman. What are you teaching them? You're teaching them already. You're already planting the seeds that when you're not who you really are, that's when you're special. My girls never prayed that. I'm not bragging on my girls. I'm just giving you an example that I practice what I preach. They didn't do that. They don't have any interest in that. They don't have any because they never grew up with it. Your kids, when they get older, they're going to get a TV. No, they're not. You're not going to get some. They had joy. They had fun other ways. We played games. We played Woolly Mammoth. Woolly Mammoth. The girls started this. One day, I was doing some exercises. I do a lot of push-ups. And they put a blanket on me. They said, Daddy, buck us off like a horse. Wife didn't like it because they thought they'd get broken or something. Anyway, I'd buck them off. And they'd fly into the windows, and they'd hit the chandeliers and go over the bed. And my wife would say, they're fine, they're tough, they never got hurt. And then as they got older, they do that. I said, I can't do it now. They're like bigger, I can't do that now. But every once in a while, they'll try to get on my back. I say, baby, you're too big now. But when they were little, it was okay. You have to give them a substitute. You don't take your kids to Halloween. Do something alternative to it. Okay. How parents were parented. How your parents raised you influences your parenting beliefs, attitudes, feelings, and behavior. Look back over your upbringing and be honest with yourself about how the way you were parented affects the way you're parenting, and get help to change the way you parent if you need it. My dad was a monster. He even said it when I told him you're a monster. He just, you told me. He's a civil rights attorney. He was second tier. You heard of Martin Luther King. You wouldn't hear about him. He's second tier. He thought he was a lawyer. He came home and he's like, Dad, why are you cross-examining us? He just is so critical, and you couldn't have a conversation with him without him picking out the wrong. We call him, Christlike, we call him critical snipers, always looking for something to shoot you on. I said, Dad, why are you always on us? Well, I want you to do the best. That's not the way to do it. He said, don't talk to me like that, boy. I say, well, you know, it hurts. It doesn't feel good. He and I didn't talk for years. For years. He wanted me to go to law school. I didn't want to go to law school. You know how some parents are, because you don't do what they do, they think you're saying what they're doing is a waste of time. I said, Dad, that's not my passion. Do you want to be a psychologist? No. Do you want to run a marathon? Or no. Why? Because you're not interested. Well, I'm interested in law. It's good for you, but not for me. I tell kids, when your parents are pushing, you got to be respectful. Say low and slow. Talk low and slow. Mom, Dad, I know you only want the best for me, but what you're recommending is not my passion. I tell a lot of the Asian students that, and they say, I can't do that, it's not in my culture. I said, look, no one can choose your path but you and God. Just respectfully say to them, Mom and Dad, I know you only want the best for me, but what you're recommending is not something I believe is best. If your parents are what they should be, they'll understand it. This is a big one, peer pressure. It's very real, and most parents report that this is something they seem to have little success in controlling and countering. That's why I said no TV. No TV. TV, one of the names for Satan is Prince of the Power of the Air. He's king of the airwaves, and we invite him into our homes. Invite him into our homes. I mean, when I came, I'm 65, I already said I'm 65. I grew up in this born 1957. The TV, we had only 2 TVs, ABC, NBC, CBS, that's it. And you remember the rabbit ears? Now you can just sit in your bed and just flip, and you're inviting him into your home. It's corruptive, it's a time sucker. I remember one time I was in the dentist's office, and they had a TV on. It was some soap opera. I don't know why they call them soap operas. There's nothing clean about them. But anyway, there was this scene where these 2 people were under the sheets, and it's like, why is your son look? Well, it's okay. No, it's not okay. Now I know you wouldn't do it, some of you would, but I'm gonna do it. When I see to me that's abuse. I'm gonna say the kid shouldn't be looking at that. He doesn't understand what's going on. They're getting pre-sexualized too soon. Okay, here's another big one. Media pressure. This too is all too real and is a major threat to children's self-worth, because the media saturates youth what they think they should be like. And if a youth doesn't feel that she or he measures up to the media standards and expectations, their self-worth can plummet. And what media pushes on youth to be and dress and talk and buy and treat their parents is usually the opposite of what parents prefer. The internet is not bad. Invite me back, I'll tell you about overcoming addiction to technology and TV. Technology is not bad as long as you control it and it doesn't control you. Because I'm going to repeat what I said. Technology is not bad as long as it doesn't control you. If you know it controls you, you can't have it. That's why it's so dangerous to give a kid a cell phone unless they're shown responsibility. You can put all the blocks and parental, you think they can get around that. When I was a professor, any problem I had with the kids would fix it, they could do it. I remember my little nephew. He's a nephew. This guy is 6 years old. He knows how to fix, he knows everything about a smartphone. What is he doing? And they let him have a nephew. He goes off somewhere, I don't know what he's doing, playing games. That's another seminar, I won't get into that. I didn't bring my watch up here. What time is it anyway? 2:36. I'm supposed to be done at what time? 3. Okay, all right, okay. Okay, all right. Okay, 5 basic needs of children. Number 1, unconditional love. If not done, children will do things positive to get it or things negative to deserve it. Let me say what you mean. If you don't love your kids unconditionally, you only love them or show them praise when they do something they like or something you like, they will continue to do that to get your like. Or this is reverse cycle, but it happens all the time. They will be bad kids I gotta break this down. If you just reward your kids or say positive things about them when they do good, they'll either do more of that or they'll act bad to think, okay, it's not because they don't like me that they're not giving me praise, I am acting up. That's damaging to a kid. You don't want to do that. Kids need to be taught. to be taught. We sometimes forget that our kids don't, it's like I tried bench press. That's not me. I don't like the weights. Mess up your rotator cuff. I've seen too many patients who wish they'd never lifted a weight. But it's like asking someone to bench press 250 pounds. They never even been. You can't expect something from someone they haven't been trained yet. Too many parents expect things from their kids that they couldn't do when they were their age and they're not even doing now. You got to give them time. You got to train them up to be nurtured, to be nurtured, to be nurtured. Touch, time, consoling when hurt, physically or emotionally. There are still men in this day and age, when their kids fall down and cry, they say, "Get up, boy." Particularly when they do something that could have been avoided. Yeah, you want to bring that to their attention, but not now. Now you need to scoop them up. You know, I remember when my youngest daughter, Serene, she was learning how to ride a bike. And I said, "You can ride it, but don't take your training wheels off yet." Well, she took them off, she rode them, she flipped over and cracked her tooth, broke her tooth. And I could have said, you know, you just could have been avoided. But I didn't. I said, "Baby," I took her inside, kind of pressed them on the mouth, took her to the dentist next, and she's fine. Then I said, "Honey, what could you have done different? I shouldn't have taken her. That's it. Now let's go get some soy yogurt or something like that." See, what we parents do is when our kids do something wrong, we go off on them. They feel like you don't like them anymore. You don't punish them that way. Yeah, they shouldn't have done that, but how many times did you do wrong? How many times are you still doing wrong? Genuine, deserved praise. Affirm or validate the positive. Just don't discipline the negative. What a lot of parents do, this is what Christian psychology says, is you focus on the minors instead of the majors. You focus on little itty bitty things. You know how you get. When your kids do wrong, they hear about it forever. When they do right, you don't say anything. You give them one praise and you move on. That's the opposite I did in my home. That's the opposite of what I did in my home. When the kids messed up, which was rare, I said, "Baby, what was that all about?" When they do something right, I said, "That was great, that was good." In my household, we celebrate birthdays a month before and a month afterwards. When they get good grades, I don't ever say good grades, I say good effort. It showed in your grade. And it'll be like a month later, I say, "Baby, come on, I want to take you to the mall, let you use my credit card." You want to focus on the positive. Why are you always focusing on the negative? Parents who are in control. No impatience, irritability, anger, rage, hostility, or screaming or yelling. You want to be consistent and fair with discipline. You cannot do this. You cannot do this. You cannot say, "Well, you did this. You can't do something for a week." And what do kids do? They'll be on the best behavior, and you let them off. You let them off. You don't let them off. It's good for a week. I remember an SDA parent came in and said something like, "Well, my son, he's not really studying. He's spending a lot of time with kids, and he's a wrestler, and he might go to state meet." And I told him that if he doesn't do better this time, he can't go to that state meet. Well, he qualified for state meet. What did the parent do? Let him go. I said, "You made a big mistake, Mom. Number one, you compromise your authority. Another thing is you're sending the message that you don't have to deal with the consequences. You shouldn't let him go to state meet. He blew it. The ball wasn't his. He was made clear to him. If you don't do well, you can't go." I got to throw this in here too. Lost my train of thought. You got to throw this in here too. It'll come back to me, I guess. That's a good point. I got to think about it a minute. That's what happens when you don't get good sleep. I worked till 6 last night, but I had a lot of paperwork because I'm going on vacation Sunday, London, and I have to get everything done, otherwise the paperwork's going to be there and it's going to have red on it, meaning it should have been done. Here, now come back to me. I knew it would. I said, "Lord, bring it back to remembrance." I put it in here. He's bringing it back. Most parents don't want to believe that when their kids go awry, it's their fault. I've seen so many Christian, non-Christian, SDA Christian parents say, "Tim messed up my boy. He led him into drugs. He led him into crime." I'll say, Tim, can you tell your mom what you told me? Mom, Dad, Tim didn't lead me into drugs and crime. I let him. We don't want to think our kids are guilty. There are parents who come to me and say, I don't want my boy in there with criminals. He's a criminal. I'll tell him, there's a criminal. He's with his kind. You cannot pull punches when it comes to kids. People want to think their kids are all pure and holy. Well, some of them are, but some of them are not. There's crooked. I know a lot of SDA kids, Christian kids, you think they're saints. They're not saints. You gotta help them to see the reality. There's an old movie, what's it called? The Bad Seed. Anyone ever seen The Bad Seed? Look at it. This child was able to know her mother to think she was a lot of kids do that today. They never even saw the movie. You want to be consistent and fair with discipline. What do I mean by that? You cannot show favorites. Now, it's natural when a child is obedient and they're easy maintenance for you to want to say yes to them, and then the one that's not, you can't do that. You can never do that. You just can't do that. You have to say yes or no based not on whether they deserve it, but on their responsibility. I've seen parents where they come in for family therapy and one child says, she likes him more than her. Well, what makes you say that? Well, and then the parents say, shh. It's natural again to want to say yes to the child that's low maintenance, that's obedient, but you can't do that. 5 things that chill a child's spirit. You want to kill your child's spirit, do this. Always feeling that they're bad. Some parents don't talk with their kids, but to their kids. The only time you say something to them is to correct them for what they're doing wrong or to tell them they're doing wrong. Most of these kids tell me, I have conversations with my parents. They just tell me what to do or what not to do. And they're always telling me what I'm doing wrong. Always feeling that they're in trouble. You're always getting on them all the time when you come to them. It's like, they're, oh, brother, what I do wrong now? Always feeling inadequate, that they don't live up to your expectations or are never good enough. This is so damaging, so damaging. I've had kids tell me from elementary, middle school, they used to call it junior high. I don't know why they changed it. What is a middle school? It's junior high. I've had kids tell me from elementary, junior high, high school, college, that the only time they feel good is when they're measuring up to their parents' expectations. They don't ever feel they're good enough, never ever. This is something you don't want to do. Always comparing your kids to other kids and another negative. Never do that. I know why you do it. You're trying to say this is an example. They see it as you want that person more than me. I've had so many parents mess up their kids because they say things like, why can't you be like your best friend so-and-so? Why can't you be like your younger sister? You're damaging that kid. You're saying, I wish I had another one of him or her than this child. You never compare your kids to anyone. No, ever, never, nunca. Parental hypocrisy. Parents who basically come across to their children as do what I say, not what I do. You can't lead anywhere you haven't already gone. You can't expect what you're not. You just can't. As parents, we need to be aware of these issues, the basic needs of children, the things that kill a child's spirit, and not allow a child to be victimized by them. We need to love, accept, nurture our children, and focus much less on them performing for us. This is tough for our parents, because it's tough for us as parents, because we want the best for them. I think I only have 2 more pages here. 4 points for parents and parents to be. Number 1, build your lives around your children. Build your lives around your children, not your children around your lives. You will not do that unless your life is built around Jesus. You've got to build your life around Jesus. Your life has to be ordered. Some people don't go to prayer meeting or divine worship or Sabbath school because they got other things to do. You got to build, you build that life around. You don't build church around your life. You don't go to prayer meeting and divine worship every Sabbath unless there's something legitimate because you're going to get brownie points. You do it because you need to be spiritual. That's why I do it. It's rare that I ever miss Sabbath school, divine worship, prayer meeting. Now I'm not trying to show off or get brownie points. I need that medicine every week. I need it regularly. I need it. Where the first picture of God, I tried to fix that on my PowerPoint, it didn't work. I don't know why. Maybe it was an upgrade or something. Anyway, the first picture of God and Jesus comes from the parents or the primary caretakers. You and I have to be Christlike. The reason I've always been gentle with my girls, I play woolly mammoth. I remember they had little teacup things, and they'd be saying, "Daddy, you gonna drink tea with us?" Like, why no real tea in here? In my head, I'm thinking, why can't we have real? But they're playing. I let them do it. You gotta meet them. This is what you gotta do if you have a little kid. You plan on having children. You have to talk to your son or daughter while she's in the womb. Remember, I said when they were in the womb, I said, "Daddy loves you. I'll always love you. Nothing won't take that." They know that. They know that I said it in their womb. So when they came out, and I said, they looked at me because they've heard that before. Wear what you share. If you want them to see it, you have to be it. Show it if you want them to know it. Reflect on what you liked and didn't like while growing up in your family, and avoid the negative, apply the positive, and develop new positive things you can do in your family. I remember when we had children, and somehow we don't let them look at TV, we don't have a TV. People look like we're crazy. What? You want your marriage to grow strong? That's another sermon, another seminar. You want your marriage to go strong? Get rid of TV for 3 years. Think of people, what am I supposed to do? You'll find something to do. Get rid of your TV. How is TV, and you sit there, you look at each other, you laugh, go give me some food. It's like you can't spend that time interacting. Whatever you didn't like that your parents did, don't do it to yours. I learned to be a decent parent, not because of anything, but I remembered the things my parents did, which I didn't like, mostly my dad. And I said, well, that's what I'm going to do. Then, I've seen enough kids and parents to know that things mess them up, so I don't do that. What's my time like? What time is it now? 2:50, that's enough time. The routines we grow up with often become the habits. You got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. It's important to have family traditions. They forge family identity and a sense of belonging, and they bond and bring families together, and they create positive family memories. When you do devotions every night, or you go and you walk, like after eat, we always go walking after, it helps to accelerate the digestion. When you do that stuff, when things get rough in life for them, which they will, they can think, oh yeah, these are things my family did that I enjoyed. Got to build good routines. Love your children unconditionally as God loves you. Let's be to our children and all children what we appreciate. We have to be unconditionally loving. But this is where the problem is. Many parents haven't experienced and internalized God's unconditional love, so they can't pass on to their kids. You can't give what you don't have. Many folks in here, if the research is right, 3 out of 4 you in here, you haven't really experienced God's love. I'm not saying this, I'm just saying what the research says. I don't know you or anything, but the research says 3 out of 4 you haven't experienced His love. You do things out of fear. Well, that's a low level of obedience. You're doing it out of fear. Don't blame yourself or feel guilty should your children go astray when you know you did what you did. I think I put this on here. Child Guidance, page 173. I want to read this to you. This is for you parents that feel like you failed. Parents may do everything in their power to give their children every privilege and instruction in order that they may give their hearts to God. Yet the children may refuse to walk in the light and by their evil course cast unfavorable reflections upon their parents who love them and whose hearts yearn after their salvation. It is Satan who tempts children to follow in a course of sin and disobedience. If they refuse to walk in the light, if they refuse to submit their will and way to God and persist in following a course of sin in their impatience, the light and privilege they have had will rise up in judgment against them. Because they did not walk in the light and they knew not whither they went. Satan is leading them and they become a subject of remark in the world. People will say, why, look at those children, their parents are very religious, but you see, they are worse than my children, and I do not profess to be a Christian. In this way, children who receive good instruction and yet do not heed it cast reproach upon their parents, dishonoring them and putting them to shame. They also bring a report. You cannot take responsibility for the choices your children make if you know you've done the best you can. If you've done the best you can, you've prayed with them, you send them to Christian school if you can. It's expensive. I was telling Maya and Pastor Dina, maybe it was just Maya, I don't know who, I think one of them, I don't know, that, when I worked at Oakwood, I said, Christian education doesn't cost, it pays. They don't pay much in our schools because folks aren't faithful with tithe and offerings. So you don't have these big fat salaries. But it was worth it. It's tough to pay for 2 kids in school and in college. You can begin to pass those out. You can pass those out. Is that enough for everyone? Yeah. I know some parents cannot pay for Christian education. You're not failing your kids. I know there's some who really want to, but they just can't. The reality is they can't. God still can bless. But if you can cut back on things, you must. I've seen so many people as a pastor and a psychologist, and I try to do the best I can. I say, look, I know you said you didn't have the money, but I know that you're spending the money in ways that could go to the Christian education. God understands if you really are using your money responsibly, which means return a faithful tithe and offering. And the tithe is on the net of the gross. Do you return tithe on the net of the gross? The gross. I remember one woman, and I'm going to sit down. This woman had 2 master's degrees, a bad new house, and a car. But what she really wanted was what? She had a high brand new house, 2 cars, what did she really, really want? She wanted a man. And she came in and said, Doc, I already know what you want to talk about. You want a man, you'll never get it because you're tithing on your net. He says, how did you know? It doesn't matter that I know. You're robbing God. That's why he's not going to give you the desire of your heart because you're robbing him. You have to I couldn't make it without if I had to pay all my tithe. If you don't pay tithe, you return it. You can't. How can you expect God's fullest? God will give you everything what you really want. That's him. He's trying to tell you something. You told any treasurer, and most folks, maybe a third, a little bit more of that will return a faithful tithe, and then it becomes an offering. It's like optional. I'm going to stop now. I think it's probably around 3, right? Okay, so any questions, comments, or discussion? I know someone else needs to come in here. Well, I'll be here a while. I think I'm doing this again somewhere else. And I'll be on time because I'm here. And we'll have more time.